Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the latest edition of Miami Hurricanes Talk by Danny, presented by Lorraine Sports. Please join Canes Connection today at canesconnection.com. You'll help student athletes there. And if you want to order this shirt, We Bring the Smoke, please go to Lorraine Sports, myshopify.com to place your order today. It helps those without NIL deals for student athletes in Miami without NILs. My guest this week needs absolutely no introduction if you're in the Carolinas. This man is an absolute icon. 43 years, the voice of college football, and 27 with Wake Forest. My guest this week is Stan Cotten. Stan, thank you for coming on this morning.
Danny, thanks for the invite. Pleasure to talk with you today.
Yeah, I've looked at the interview of this man. Graduated, like you said, University of Tennessee. You're a native of Knoxville. I look at your career highlights. The one that really interests me, of course, you're a three-time AP Broadcaster of the Year award winner in Tennessee. You were that. You're an NSMA Sportscaster of the Year 6 times in North Carolina. You called Carson Newman University. What was that like from 1980 to 92? You called 5 national championships in the NAIA level.
That was, when I was getting started, that was a whole lot of fun. We didn't know what we were doing, and my high school football coach actually got the Carson Newman job when I was a student at Tennessee,
Wow.
and I had notions of actually being a player. I was a quarterback on his team in high school and tore up a knee and was recruited and all those kinds of things. But my career was over after about 15 months of a couple of ACLs back in the 70s. Pardon me, you were pretty much done.
Yeah.
And so started messing around with radio a little bit and was at Tennessee and working for actually the flagship station of the Ball Network in Knoxville. And my coach gets the Carson Newman job, and that's about 30 minutes outside of Knoxville. He said, "Hey, you're playing around with this radio stuff. How about calling Carson Newman games?" So I said, "Sure, why not?" So I did that. And after the first game, I was hooked and did their games for 12 years before moving on to Marshall for a few seasons and then to Wake Forest. I've actually been here 29 years now, but it all started back in 1980 at Carson Newman. And they had a great, as you mentioned, Danny, they were at the NAIA level, but just had really good football teams and played won 5 national titles, and so it was fun to be a part of that ride for a long, long time.
Then he went to Marshall. One of the greatest movies I ever saw. I know you said it. We Are Marshall from the 19th talks about the 1970 plane crash and how that program got revived. One of the greatest movies I ever saw, by the way.
Marshall, I was there 4 years, 4 of the greatest years of my life. That's a special community in a lot of different ways. And my first year there, they won the national championship. That won the one AA title over Jim Tressel's Youngstown State Penguins.
Wow.
Jim Donnan was our football coach, and people always ask me, "Oh, you did Randy Moss?" I missed Randy Moss by a year.
Yeah.
I came to Wake
96.
96, 97, that athletic year, and that was Randy's first year at Marshall. But even though I missed him, certainly caught a lot of other great players at Marshall. And it was just, Huntington, West Virginia is a special place.
Yes.
And I could have stayed there I could have stayed at Carson Newman forever, for that matter. But Carson Newman was a great place. Marshall was a great place. We've set our roots pretty deeply here in Winston-Salem at Wake Forest and raised a couple of daughters here. It's been a special place as well. And a good marker for me here is my first year here was Tim Duncan's last year.
I
And
remember that. I
so
was going to bring that up.
even though that ages me a little bit, that's a pretty good marker for me. And that was a long time ago.
Wow. Wow. You've done it all. Want to talk about last week against Carolina. Last week I looked at a couple things that really stood out to me. One, when I look at the numbers, the Wake defense gave up almost 300 yards rushing. Okay. How are they going to deal if Hampton got almost 240 by himself? How are they going to prepare to deal with two backs the caliber of Fletcher and Martinez this week?
Great question, Danny. I don't know the answer. You dig in the best you can, right? I mean, last week at Carolina, it's no real egregious sin, I guess, to give up that amount of rushing against Carolina. That's what Carolina does. They're kind of built differently than they have been in years past. Carolina for such a long time was, as most teams are, the conduit for the offense is the quarterback, and that's not necessarily the case at Carolina. But you got to find a way to stop the run. I mean, you just can't give people 6, 7, 8 yards on first down and expect to have a fighting chance. And so, in this game with Miami, Wake's defensive front is going to have to be good, really, really good. And on top of trying to stop the run, you got to try to get pressure on
Cameron.
Ward. You can't just let him sit back there and pick you apart all day. So it's going to be a tall order for Wake this weekend. Wake's struggle in the secondary all season long. That's not uh, you know that part has been known. Wake's had some injuries there. Wake lost a couple of guys that are playing the National Football League right now. So,
Yeah.
they could have a couple of guys that are in the pros. But a lot of teams are like that. Most teams are like that. They lose people to the league. They lose people to other schools, all those types of things with the way college sports is today. So, you go with what you have, and Wake will try to dig down and have a special, day against Miami on Saturday. That's what it's going to take.
Yeah, what will be the offensive game plan? Will they follow? Did Dave Clawson look at film from the Georgia Tech game, and will they go run heavy to try to shorten the game and limit the possessions Miami has?
Certainly a way to do it. I mean, you got to try to keep the ball out of the hands of the Miami offense because, as as well as anybody, I mean that's you're flirting with fire there, and so you got to find a way to keep the football. And Wake can't be two dimensional. They've got to find a way to run the ball. They've got a tailback that can certainly do that.
Yeah, and
Damon
Claiborne.
Claiborne's got enough move and wiggle himself. But if the offensive line can have a really good day, if Wake can, itself get 3 to 5 yards on first down running the ball, that'll ease the pressure on Hank Bachmeier. Because if you get behind, you start pressing, you throw passes you shouldn't. Uh, and so Wake will try to get out of those scenarios where, they're at least kind of on an even keel within a shot or two of the Hurricanes, maybe ahead. Who knows how these things go?
Yeah.
Miami's had to come from behind an awful lot. So we'll see. But Wake absolutely cannot be one dimensional on Saturday and have a shot.
Now, are they going to play two quarterbacks, or is it going to be just Bachmeier that goes Saturday?
Bachmeier, I think he's the quarterback. He got dinged up a little bit last week, and we'll see how that shakes out this week. But he's the quarterback, and if he is healthy, he'll play.
Yeah, so I looked at the drives last week, and you talked about you can't go three and outs. I mean, the Georgia Tech last 2 weeks ago ran the ball, had almost an 11-minute drive, and Miami's defense got tired. Did Wake take anything from that and see, hey, we could do the same thing with the jet sweeps and definitely with the time of possession game?
You have to at this point. Wake's 4-6, and any shot at a bowl game, got to win this week against Miami, and then go back home and win against Duke. And so, you at this point, you don't leave anything uncovered. Your playbook is as fat as it's ever been. You go to plays maybe you've not worked on all that much. Whatever it is, you got to pull out all the stops and try to get it done against Miami. So. I don't know what we'll see on Saturday, but I expect we'll see some things that we haven't seen a whole lot of. But again, it starts at the line of scrimmage. Football is not that complicated a game,
No.
uh, and it's going to take some really good play for Wake on both sides of the line up front to stay in the fight with a really good Miami team that itself has a whole lot to play for this weekend. It really does.
Oh, yeah, no question. Okay, give me your keys to a Wake upset, and then I'll give you the keys to a Miami win.
I don't think Wake can play from behind. I think it's got to have a really good start. If it can somehow find a way to get a lead on Miami, and then kind of hold it, stay really really close. If Wake can do that, then obviously all of the pressure goes to Miami, all of it. Wake should be able to play pressure-free football on Saturday, as we've talked about. Pull out the stops, do some things you haven't done. Don't be afraid to try this, try that. But you got to do that where you're equal with Miami or maybe ahead, and force Miami to start, feel the screws tightening. That's a tall order, but it certainly can happen. Wake has been a very resilient team this season, and regardless of the outcome on Saturdays the following week, it's been a really good team of getting back to work and trying to get ready for the upcoming Saturday, regardless of what happened the week before. And I think that's a reflection of Dave Clawson and the type of program he's built at Wake. So again, I think the biggest key for Wake is to not play from behind, and so they've got to have a very quick start.
Let me tell you the keys to a Miami win.
All right.
Get back to basics. Stop the jet sweep. I don't know if Wake probably won't do the jet sweep. Stop the run and don't let the quarterback run the football. Because Haynes King killed Miami with that 2 weeks ago. And the jet sweep just absolutely killed Miami's linebackers. But the thing I also see we have to do is protect Cam Ward. Wake had 5 sacks last week, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
Correct.
I think what Miami's offensive line has to do is protect Ward, get back to basics, play tough defense, and don't let Wake in the ball game. Get a lead, just put the hammer down, and I think this week Miami, if we stop the run, we don't let them beat us with the jet sweep, they will win. I think Miami wins comfortably. Now, I know Brett, I know Stan, I don't think you can make a prediction because you're calling the game, but the way I'm going to see this. I think Miami's upset. It's an angry Hurricanes team, and I think Miami wins comfortably in this game. I'm going to go Miami 48, Wake Forest 20. That's my pick, 48 to 20. Stan, do you have any final thoughts before we wrap up here?
I think so. I love coming down to Miami. Number one, because of the weather. I've already looked at the forecast. It looks like a 82 and sunny. It's as we record this, it's probably in the 50s and raining here in North Carolina. So we always look forward to coming down there. We don't get down there a whole lot, but it's a challenge. Miami's got a really really good team. I'm anxious to see Ward in person and see what Wake can do. It's a challenge not only for the football team but for us as well in the broadcast booth to tell the story. And so that's why you play the games, right, Danny? I mean, you just don't,
Yes.
football. The late Skip Prosser, our former basketball coach,
Yes.
always joked with me. He said, "You football guys now, you throw that football out and it bounces crazily all the time. It's not like a basketball." And so we'll see what happens on Saturday. I get Wake's a big underdog and all that, and I understand it. If I were on the other side, I would certainly agree with that. But Wake will fight, and we'll see how it goes. If Wake can do some things early, make it interesting, maybe we'll have a fun afternoon. But that's why you play the games, and Wake will show up. I promise you that.
Stan, thank you, Stan. Great thoughts to finish. Stan, thank you so much for coming on. It is an absolute honor to talk to you. Let's have a good trip to Miami. We'll talk again soon.
Danny, thank you.